Hello again. Now you've got to know about control practice activities in the previous video. Why don't we look at the other type of activity, less controlled, or in other words, freer practice activities in a language lesson? In this video, you will understand what freer practice activities refer to, what teacher needs to keep in mind when conducting these types of activity, and some examples of freer practice activities. Alright, let's start. First, let's have a look at the definition. Freer productive activities involve using a productive skill, speaking or writing, in a non-restricted environment that focuses on the development of fluency. At this stage, fluency is the focus of the activity rather than the accuracy. So, this is the last stage of a lesson after students are introduced the language items and have some controlled practice to get familiar with the target language. Freer practice is for students to use the language freely without much control from the teacher. Here are some general guidelines for teachers to carry out free practice activities successfully. First, it's nice to have a warm-up stage where the students brainstorm ideas about what they want to speak or write about, usually by taking some kinds of notes or making some outline. Some kind of note-taking handout or graphic organizers would usually facilitate student participation in freer activities. Next, timer is also important. A timer usually facilitates the activities and keep the focus on speaking for fluency. Next, teachers should focus on giving instructions. The instruction should be short and simple. Teachers should include questions that focus on the students achieving the aim, speaking or writing for fluency. For example, are you going to write short notes or in paragraph form? The answer should be paragraph form to focus on writing for fluency. Teachers should also include an example of the task because freer productive activities are usually more complicated for students to understand. The last note is about giving feedback. Teacher might give feedback on both content and language. About content, teacher focuses on discussing the idea of what the activity is about. For example, what the students discussed or wrote about. About language, teacher focuses on giving delayed error correction feedback on the errors that teacher noticed while the students are practicing speaking or writing for fluency. There are two important notes about feedback delivery. First, content feedback should always come before language feedback. Second, do not interrupt students and correct them while they are doing the activity itself. Just wait until the activity has ended and go over the error correction, because interrupting the students would influence their practicing for fluency. Below are some examples of different freer practice activities. They are separated into two broad categories based on the sub-skills that they aim to develop, speaking or writing for fluency. Activity 1. Pyramid activity. This activity includes three main stages. First, individual ranking. Second, partner ranking. And last, the group ranking. Stage 1. Individual ranking. The activity starts with the students making some kind of ranking in terms of importance. They do it individually. For example, they rank 7 items from 1 to 7 in terms of their importance in order to survive on an island, for example. It's important to note that each number should be given to one item from 1 to 7. There can be no 2 items with number 2, for example. The second step is partner ranking. With partners, students have to come up with one mutual list. So, the students have to come to an agreement. Step 3. Group ranking. After the partner ranking, split the class into larger groups where the students will have to agree on one common list. Activity 2. Mingle. For this activity, students will stand up, walk around the class, and speak to other students. It is similar to mingling in a social gathering. Common mingle activities include surveys, find someone who activities, sharing ideas or stories, or exchanging personal information. Activity 3. Debates. In this activity, students debate a particular topic. Here are some important points to consider. Firstly, note-taking device. Have students brainstorm using some kind of note-taking device to gather their thoughts before doing the debate. Secondly, grouping. You can group the students in the following ways. Put for and against students into one group. For example, 6 people in one group, so 3 for and 3 against, and have them debate amongst each other. Or you can put 4 students into the same group and against students in another group. They discuss and prepare their arguments. Presentation. You can have the students present their for and against views in front of the class as a presentation. Forum. You can have the whole class come together and debate each other after discussing their views in groups. Activity number 4. Role plays. Students are taught to act out a particular scene, play, or communicative tasks. Here are some important notes. Information gap activity. It is a nice tool to use with role play. An information gap is where students have handouts with different information on them, and they have to communicate in order to bridge the gap of information. For example, students might do a role play where they are ordering food in a restaurant. Some students are waiters. They have information on their menu. And some students are customers. They do not have information and they need to order. The next type is drama. You can have students act out drama clips with an emphasis on improving their pronunciation. For example, sentence stress or intonation. The next note is about target language focus. You can have a certain set of target language that you want the students to use. You can ensure that the students use the target language with the help from a scaffolding device. For example, some kind of handout that has some of the target language embedded in it. For example, they can be the questions to ask or the vocabulary items to use, and also some questions such as what words or grammar point or phrases do you need to use. Activity number 5. Inter-outer circle. In this activity, students get placed into two circles. An inner circle. It is where the students are facing outward. And an outer circle where the students are facing inward, so that the students in both circles are facing each other. From there, you call out a topic or a question to discuss for a set time. For example, 1 minute or 30 seconds. After the time interval is complete, then the students in the outer circle rotate to the right with a new partner, and then you call out a new topic or a question for them to discuss for this time. Just continue for another 3 or so rounds. Now, let's watch a video to see how the activity works.
Good morning, class.
Good morning, Ms. Ruth.
Today we're going to do our inside-outside circle.
Yes.
And we're going to be reviewing our vocabulary from chapters 1 through 3. Our first step, like you remember, is we split the class in half. Now, each of you are going to stand in a circle with your backs facing each other, with your vocabulary word ready to quiz your other partner. Your label is partner A. The second half of the class is going to come and stand on the outside of the first circle. So this is called our inside circle and our outside circle. Partner A, when I say go and start the timer, you will have 30 seconds to read your vocabulary word or your question to partner B. Partner B will then have a few seconds to respond and answer the question on partner A's card. When I say stop, or if you finish before, what I'd like you to do is raise your hand to tell me that you're done. When the timer goes off, partner B is then going to read the question on his or her card. Partner A will then also have 30 seconds to respond and answer the question. Conclusion. What I'd like for you to do now is rotate clockwise. So Kaylee, you're going to stand in front of Blake. Eddie, you're going to stand in front of Gibby. Everyone is going to rotate to the left. Now, just like we did with your last partner, partner A is going to read your question to partner B. Partner B will then have 30 seconds to respond, and then as the timer goes off, you will rotate and partner B will ask your question. Any questions?
Alright, those are some types of speaking activities to develop fluency. When teaching speaking, it is essential that teachers are equipped with some techniques to carry out the lessons well. Now, let's watch another video and take notes of the techniques.
English language teaching has the same challenges the world over. This series focuses on teaching speaking. We've come to Thailand to see what techniques teachers here use to get their students speaking, and we'll have expert tips from teacher trainer John Kay.
It's important that teachers are organised at the beginning of the lesson, but it's also important that the students feel relaxed. If the teacher's relaxed and the teacher feels part of the lesson and is leading by example, then the students will feel relaxed and they'll feel more inclined to participate. A warmer is often a good way to make sure that this happens. One idea for the warmer is when you're arranging group work.
What's this? Horse.
Remember, the focus is on fluency, so you give each student a picture of an animal, for example.
Sheep. Spell sheep.
You have 5 cows, 5 sheep, 5 horses, and each student has one card with an animal on it.
Don't let your friend look at your picture.
They don't look at the other person's card, but they say, which animal have you got? And they say, I've got a horse. Okay, no, you're not in my group. They're speaking to each other, and there is an element of fluency even before the activity begins.
Look at the picture on the board.
The teacher can manipulate who they want in each group by distributing the cards in a clever way to begin with.
You can help her.
Do you want students of equal ability in each group? Do you want some of the less inhibited ones with some of the more inhibited ones so they can help each other? You decide that before you put the groups together.
The next thing we will do.
Remember, once you've got the students warmed up, don't lose the momentum. There's no point in getting the students warmed up if you're immediately then going to cool them down again by saying, okay, now look at page 23.
Right, today we're going to learn about giving advice.
When giving instructions, let them know, here it comes, here comes the instruction. Look around, make sure they can all see you, and then go for it.
Together with your friends, read the dialogue and see if you see any conditional sentence in the dialogue. In giving instruction in large class, I would say it and then I would ask students to repeat what I say. Do you work alone? No, you work with partner. Please do, okay? Work with partner, do not work alone, okay? 2 minutes.
Once you've given the instruction, check that they understand, usually through their actions. Watch them. If they do it, they've understood. If they don't do it, they haven't understood. In which case, go back, give the instruction again, and then ask them to go again.
This animal, you can find it in your picture. When I give the instruction for them, I speak them in English and I will tell them in Thai because when I speak in English, maybe they don't understand. If you don't know what does it mean, please look at the...
If enough careful planning goes into the instruction and the instructions are simplified enough before the lesson begins, then it may take away the necessity for using the student's own language.
Do you understand the instruction? Yes.
Now look, tell me what you know about this. What is it?
Make sure you're not using any overcomplicated language. For example, can you say, what's this, rather than, can anybody tell me what this is?
What is it, if sentence? When do you use if sentence?
Even in your own language, it's quite difficult to take in more than 2 instructions. So one instruction, let them move. Then give another instruction, let them move.
Anyone, help her. Any example? If.
I always speak English in instructions because the language that I use would be the language that you can use in real life.
I can't go to school.
Okay, that's another if sentence.
I put it on for time. Okay. I say, what is this? Okay, look at this. We say, he is wearing a jacket.
If you want the students to practice particular language, then it's often important that you do some controlled oral practice of the target language before they start to practice in groups.
How do we say this? Okay.
To do this controlled practice, you can use straightforward repetition, where the teacher stands once again where everybody can see the teacher, and then give them a model, and they repeat after the teacher. Taking this one step further, to make it a little bit more creative for the students, give the students a prompt. It can be a visual prompt, it could be a noise, it depends on the teacher.
She's wearing a dress. What else she wearing?
However, it's important that you don't speak at the same time as the students, because you have to hear what the students are saying.
Okay, now open it and look at yours and come up with the answer.
Be creative, but generate that enthusiasm and interest with the students so that the repetition and the drilling becomes a little bit more meaningful.
You disagree, but you not strongly disagree. What expression can you use?
Think about what language the students are going to need in order to complete the task successfully. This language could be practiced before they actually start doing the task.
When you want to disagree directly, you say, I don't agree.
For any task, it's obviously extremely useful for the students to see this useful language. So you can have this on the walls or on the table. They're surrounded by the language, and it altogether encourages them to use English in the classroom. Once you've done your controlled practice, why not extend that activity? Feed in something else for them to do, which will allow them to practice language that they've practiced in previous lessons, and push themselves so that they're really getting the most out of a fluency lesson.
Today I'm wearing blue jacket, blue jeans and white socks. Thank you.
You know that in a speaking lesson, pay attention to warmer to start a lesson, groupings to put students in different groups, giving instructions so that students understand the task well, or focusing on the target language and useful language for the student to complete the tasks are all important. For writing, there are many types of writing tasks that teacher could use to develop student fluency. Below are some examples. Email or letter writing, writing essay, or free writing of any topic and format, and some kinds of creative writing like writing stories or writing poems. For email writing, you have students write back and forth to each other in class in letter or email form. You can download an email or letter template for them to fill in from Google Images, for example. Or you can just take a screenshot of an empty email from your own email account, print it, and give it to the students as a handout. For essay writing, teach students typical essay format and how to write thesis statement, topic sentences, and supporting ideas. For free writing, have students write about whatever topic without worrying about following any standardized form. For example, just one paragraph rather than following any organization, such as an introduction, body, and conclusion. Next, story from prompts. Give students an introduction to a story, either a few sentences or perhaps a full paragraph, and then they continue it using their imagination. You can do this in a series where the students write a paragraph, pass it down to the next student writes a paragraph or a sentence on where the previous student left off. Pass it again and again, and just continue to finish the story. Alright, in this video, we have discussed about freer practice activities. They are at the last stage of the lesson for students to practice speaking or writing for fluency. It is noticeable that there must be one activity of this type in every lesson. If all the activities are controlled, students only remember the language items and do the activity with teachers' assistance. With freer practice activities, students are given chances to use the language on their own in real-life situations.